Totals for week 10. Total expenses were $3,450 at $1.25 per mile. Total revenue was $4,600 at $1.66 per mile. That brought our net settlement to $1,149 at 42 cents per mile. Welcome back to Trucking the Seven Seas. This is episode number 90, and in this episode, we're going to go over week 10 of running my own authority. For this episode, we take a couple long loads before getting some work done on the truck and trailer in preparation for Blitz Week. If you're new to this channel, welcome. I started the channel in order to show exactly what truck drivers make. We started as a company driver, working for night transportation, moved on to a lease operator, working for night transportation, then an owner-operator, working for Landstar, and now we are an owner-operator running our own authority. I show all of the loads I take, what the revenue is, what the expenses are, and what my net cash flow is, and I compile all of this information that I put into a spreadsheet that I share with you at the end of every video. So if this is a topic that interests you, follow the channel. But a couple of announcements before we begin. So first announcement is I did start a website. The website is called truckingthe7seas.com. The word 7 is the actual word, so S-E-V-E-N. So it's just truckingthe7seas.com. It's just a very basic website, GoDaddy thing. Just posting a summary of what we're doing here. So you can visit that in the About section down below. So I'll put the link there. It's nothing special. It's just a one-page, pretty much website that shows exactly what we're doing. So please feel free to visit that website as it is currently up and running. And second announcement is I will be appearing in the This Week in Trucking podcast. So got an email asking if I wanted to appear in that podcast. I said yes. So the video is going to get filmed on the 22nd, and then it'll be published maybe a few days to a week afterward. So be on the lookout for that. So I'll be appearing on the This Week in Trucking podcast, and I'll go ahead and put a link in the About section down below with their channel, and just be on the lookout for that as well. Also, the World Series of Poker is coming up. So for those of you who are new to the channel, sometimes I take some time off to go play in the World Series of Poker. I am a pretty decent recreational player, poker player, specifically in No Limit Hold'em. So I might be taking some time off in the coming weeks to go play in that a little bit. Still debating. I may or may not do it, but I'll keep you posted if I do end up doing that, and I'll let you know how that goes. And finally, for those off-the-cuff videos I've been posting, I've decided I am going to start a new channel for those videos specifically. I posted a couple videos on the English proficiency and then the tariffs and what I thought of those and how they affected trucking. But it was pretty immediate that some of the comments got a little, I won't say hostile, but it's just not what we're looking for in this channel. This channel is just showing basically what truck drivers make as transparently as possible. That's what we're going for here. And those videos definitely kind of create a firestorm that I don't want to bring onto this platform. So I am planning on starting a new channel. When I start that channel and when I start posting videos, I'll let you know, but I am planning on doing that. And I don't think I'm going to post any more of those videos on this channel. I'm going to start a new channel. But last episode, we left off in City of Industry, California. So we took a load from Chicago, Illinois, and then dropped it in City of Industry. And then we were looking to get out of California. So with the tariffs and everything going on, I was a little worried about going to California because I know they get a lot of their freight from the ports. And with the ports being basically empty because there was no trade going on with China, basically, I was a little worried about going there. But I checked the rates before I took that load, and they seemed fine. So the rates coming out of California still seemed fine. So I went ahead and took that load to City of Industry. And then I was looking to get east again, preferably to Texas. So that was the primary goal, was to go to Dallas or Houston or something like that. So I was looking around and I ended up finding this load right over here. So this one is going from Pomona, California to Liberty Hill, Texas. So Pomona is just I think it's like 5 miles away from City of Industry, and then Liberty Hill, Texas is basically Austin, Texas. So that's an okay market. Dallas is a little bit better than Austin / San Antonio. Dallas is a little bit better. Houston is the best, but Austin and San Antonio are also decent markets. So I thought this one was okay. Paid decently. Can't complain too much about that rate per mile. $2.07 per mile is, fine coming out of Los Angeles. Obviously, the rates are just really bad right now. $2 per mile for a 1,300 mile load going to a decent area is okay. So went ahead and booked that one. Very little deadhead, going to a decent market from one good market to a decent market. So I thought this was okay. So we booked this one, and now we are headed to Liberty Hill, Texas. Let's go. Okay, so then after dropping that Liberty Hill, Texas load, I was in Austin, which is an okay market. Austin and San Antonio are pretty close together. They're not too far apart, so both cities are within reasonable deadhead range. So I was looking around, and I did kind of like the route basically from Los Angeles to Texas. That's a fine route. Got some family along the way, so I was thinking maybe I can run this week. So that's what I was trying to do. So I was actually trying to get back to Los Angeles, and it seems like the rates out there are fine, and people are trying to avoid it. So that's given me some pretty decent negotiating power, I thought. So was trying to get back to California. So I was looking around for a load in either Austin or San Antonio, heading back to the Los Angeles area. And I was looking around, and I ended up finding this load right over here. So this one's going from San Antonio, Texas to Rancho Cucamonga, California. So that's basically almost the exact same route I just went. A little bit of deadhead. So deadhead was a little bit high, 113 miles from Liberty Hill to San Antonio. So not nothing. You know, it is notable. And then the rate per mile obviously isn't that good, but any rate going to Los Angeles is always going to be it's always going to be pretty low. So, you get a good rate going in or coming out, but you take a bad rate coming in. That's just pretty standard. Los Angeles is probably the best market in the U.S., even with the tariffs sort of affecting things right now. But it seems like it's okay. It seems like the California market, the Los Angeles, California market, as of right now, is still pretty good. So we booked this one, and now we're headed basically straight back to Los Angeles. So let's do it. All right, so after we dropped that Rancho Cucamonga load, I was looking for another load to get me through the weekend. So it was about Thursday by the time I got out of there, or by the time I dropped it. So I wanted to just see if I can grab a weekend load, a very long weekend load. So I was looking around, and I ended up finding a multi-stopper picking up in the Los Angeles area. There were two pickups. One was in City of Industry, and then there was another one in Commerce. And then it had three drops actually in the Atlanta area. So I went ahead and grabbed that one. It paid very decently. It was like $4,600 for the whole thing. However, that load is not going to make paycheck, so we're going to go ahead and get into the spreadsheet right now. All right, so as discussed, we're going to go ahead and go over week 10 in this episode. So let's do it. For week 10, we did two loads. In those two loads, we got 2,770 miles. Paid a total of $4,600 at $1.66 per mile. Fuel expenses, we fueled up 4 times. In those 4 times, we fueled up 398 gallons. Paid a total of $1,272 at 46 cents per mile. Maintenance expenses, we had 5 maintenance expenses. Those maintenance expenses totaled $2,147 at 78 cents per mile. Other expenses, scales, we scaled twice for $29.50 at 1 cent per mile. Fixed costs, there were no fixed costs this week. Totals for week 10, total expenses were $3,450 at $1.25 per mile. Total revenue was $4,600 at $1.66 per mile. That brought our net settlement to $1,149 at 42 cents per mile. Okay, so caveats for this week. You probably are wondering what these expenses are right here, and this is the overwhelming one. So next week is the Blitz. So as I'm filming this right now, the Blitz is starting, so it's day 1 of the Blitz. And for those of you who don't know what the Blitz is, it's when the DOT steps up enforcement and starts looking for basically trucks that need to be put out of service for whatever reason, either bad tires or improper paperwork or anything like that. So it's just a week of stepped up enforcement in preparation for the summer freight, basically. So I wanted to get some work done on my tractor and trailer just in preparation for this, and it also just needed a little bit of work. So while I was in City of Industry, grabbing the one going to Atlanta, so the next load, I did some work on the truck and trailer, so quite a bit of work. First off, I had a trailer tire swap. So one of my tires on my tractor was getting a little low. It wasn't quite illegal, but it was getting pretty close, so I decided to have it swapped out. And of course, I wanted to swap out my tractor tires in pairs, so that way the two tires are swapped out and they're the exact same when you put them back in. So one of them was not very good, but the other one on the outside was still fine. So I went ahead and replaced the inside tire. Well, I replaced both tires, but then I took the one good tire on the tractor and I put it on the trailer because it was still fine. The one on the trailer was another retread, and this retread was just having some uneven wear. That could be a sign of something else, but I wanted to go ahead and just replace it and see what happens and see how this other tire does. So I wanted to swap out a trailer tire. So I went ahead and did that, and then I wanted to swap out a tractor tire, and I went ahead and did that, but I swapped both out because you want to do it in pairs, so that way the tread is the same on both of those tires. So I went ahead and did that. It's basically three tire changes basically here with a swap out, if that makes sense. So I did that, and then I also noticed that one of my brake pads was getting pretty low on the trailer. So when I first bought the trailer, one of the brake pads was a little low, and I did take note of it, but it was still legal. And then I decided to go ahead and replace the entire axle brake pad, the brake pads on an entire axle, because again, you want to do it in pairs, so that way it's all even. So I went ahead and did that. So I got new brake pads on one of my trailer axles. So I did that, and then while the mechanic was looking around, he noticed that my airbag, the airbags on one of my axles was also leaking a little bit. And I'm not surprised by that. Those things looked a little worse for the wear. Two of them were good, and they were recently replaced, but then two of them were pretty old, and he noticed that they were leaking a little bit when he looked at it. So I'm like, all right. So I went ahead and while he was at it, I just had him replace the trailer airbags as well. So that's what this cost was. And yes, basically just had some tires replaced, some tires swapped, brake pads replaced, and trailer airbags replaced just because they were getting a little worse for the wear. So that's what I went ahead and did, and then there were taxes in there as well. And this was all just needed to have a little bit of work done, and it was in preparation for the Blitz. So I thought that was a fine investment. However, the investment did cost me $2,100, so that's quite a bit. 78 cents per mile, so $2,000 just down the drain this week, and that was the big one. Again, there was nothing to like. These tires were fine, but I just like, all right, they're not going to be fine for much longer, so I'm going to go ahead and get them swapped out before the Blitz. So that's what I had done, and it cost me $2,000. So there you go. That's the big one. All right, and then just scrolling up to some of the other stuff. Pretty standard week. 2,700 miles, $4,600. There's about 2 days that are not on this paycheck, just because I picked up the load going to Atlanta on Thursday. So I picked it up Thursday, ran it Thursday, ran it Friday. So there's still about 2 days that aren't on this paycheck. So just be advised of that. But then again, I think this paycheck had 2 days the week prior that carried over to this paycheck. So it's pretty close. So 2,700 miles, $4,600. It is what it is. These rates, this is about what they're going for right now. The national average is like $1.80 per mile right now. So if you go on the spot market, you go on the load boards, the national average is like $1.80 to $1.90 per mile, depending on how you're measuring it. However, that $1.80 to $1.90 includes specialized loads like hazmat loads. It includes short loads. It includes all sorts of different loads. So when you're running longer loads, you're going to get less than that, and that's about what I'm getting right now. It is what it is. Market's terrible. Hopefully things improve. I've been saying that for about a year and a half, and so far things have not gotten any better, but that's where we're at right now. This is just running California to Texas, which are two good and decent markets, so I don't think it's too bad of a run. I might start doing this in the future, depending on how the California market looks this week and next week, so we'll see about that. But yeah, just ran 2 decently long loads this week, and that was it. Fuel expenses were pretty normal, maybe a little bit high. I was running California/Arizona, so there is some higher fuel prices there, but all in all, pretty standard week as far as fuel goes. Fuel is continuing to decline, so that's good. The lower the fuel price is, the more money in my pocket. So hopefully that continues. And yeah, 46 cents per mile, little high, but that's probably because I was running California. Okay, and then in terms of the fixed and variable costs, there's really nothing, just the scales there. That's all that came in. Um, yeah, no APU payment, no trailer insurance, or no trailer payment, no insurance, no nothing like that came in, just the scales. Guessing next week I'll have something come in. Yeah, next week I got my APU payment coming in. So there's that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. No, very few uh, other expenses and very few fixed costs. So that's that. And then looking at the overalls, obviously not a very good week. Primarily, this was due to the 2,000 of maintenance expenses that I went ahead and threw in. Just some preventative maintenance is all it really was. If you were to scroll up and you delete that, let's say didn't have that, it'd be a really good week. I would have made like 3,300 almost um, without those maintenance costs. So just be advised that just had some serious maintenance done on the vehicle, so that hurt me. But go ahead, put that back in there. But this week, not a great week. $700, 42 cents per mile, not good. But that's mostly because I had very high maintenance costs this week. So there you go. There's week 10. All right, now moving on to the totals. So these are the totals since I started the program. Total expenses have been $41,404 at $1.61 per mile. Total revenue has been $44,616 at $1.74 per mile. And our total profit loss has been $3,212 at 13 cents per mile. And all of these loads are dry van. All right, so these are the totals since starting the program. You might be looking at this, and if you're a new viewer, you're probably asking yourself, why are my expenses so high? Why is it $41,000 and $1.61 per mile? Well, the reason why they're so high is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to scroll to the very top of the spreadsheet. And at the top, you'll see up here my startup costs. So these are my startup costs to get my authority active. And I made a video of that. If you want to know more information about startup costs, you can watch that video. I'm not going to go over here. But long story short, the insurance premiums, the DMV registration, and the trailer down payment, and a number of other smaller things equated to $18,000 of startup costs, which is very significant. These were basically one-time fees that I paid to get everything going. So what I'm going to do for theoretical purposes is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete the startup costs just for theoretical purposes, and then scroll back down to my totals. So I'm just scrolling down, and there are my totals without the startup costs. So we're going to go ahead and just look at things without the startup costs to give everyone a better idea of what a typical week would look like. Now, the startup costs absolutely count, but as of right now, they're so high, they're skewing all of the data, and it's hard to get a better an idea of what a typical week would look like. So right now, we're going to go ahead and look over my numbers without the startup costs. So we're going to do that right now. All right, so totals without the startup costs, we have driven a total of 25,666 miles. Total expenses have been $23,146 without the startup costs, which brings my cost per mile to 90 cents per mile. My total revenue has been $44,616 at $1.74 per mile, which brings my total profit loss to $21,469 at 84 cents per mile. Okay, so yeah, there's my totals without startup costs. So on a typical week, I've been pulling 84 cents per mile, running the spot market with my own authority. So that's not very good still. Now, week 10 was bad. So at week 10, it's right there. And because there's not a lot of data, any single week will kind of skew this significantly. So I think last week when I did this, my total profit loss was like 98 cents, 96 cents per mile or something like that. So there's still not a lot of data to basically, this number fluctuates a lot when you have kind of a bad week. So this week I had a very bad week, so it still affected it a lot. But still, 84 cents per mile, not very good. We'll see what happens in the next month or two. I'm expecting that at the end of the year, when all things are said and done, and the startup costs aren't as severe compared to my revenue, I would guess I'm going to be pulling somewhere close to $1 per mile if the market stays the same. If the market gets better, then okay, we'll see how that goes. But that's what we're doing right now without startup costs, 84 cents per mile. Now, comparing this to Landstar, where I was last time, you guys like to hear my opinion on that, and just keeping it updated every week. It's still pretty close. I think I'll just say it one more time. Long term, I think this is going to pay off. Running my own authority is going to pay off. But short term, like a year or so, if you compare running your own authority to running with Landstar over the course of a year, I think it's very, 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 very close. You might be better off at Landstar just because you won't have to deal with so many headaches on a 1 year timeline. But it's very close. And I think on a 1 year basis, running my own authority versus running with Landstar is going to be almost identical. But after 2 years, running your own authority, I think is going to be better. And anything after 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, you'd be better off running your own authority. So that's what it's looking like right now. And I will keep you posted on that. But so far, running your own authority versus Landstar, it's pretty close, to be honest. So we'll see how it ends up at the end of the year. But right now, I'd say it's pretty close. All right, and then just scrolling back down, so these are averages and other information, just a bunch of other information to put in there. So the startup costs are still not here. If I put the startup costs back in, all of these numbers get completely skewed, so we're not going to do that, and we're just going to go over averages and other information right now without the startup costs. So let's do it. All right, averages and other information. Average weekly paycheck is $2,147. Average weekly miles is 2,567 miles. Total fuel costs have been $10,031 at 39 cents per mile. We've used 3,096 gallons, and our price per gallon is $3.24 on average. Total maintenance costs have been $4,783 at 19 cents per mile. If we kept this up for a 52-week period, we'd make $111,000 and drive a total of 133,000 miles. Total revenue has been $44,616, which averages out to $4,461 per week. We've driven a total of 1,800 miles in deadhead, which is equivalent to 7.12% of total mileage. Been employed 70 days, or 10 weeks. Taken 5 days off. 65 days on duty. Taken 25 total loads. Average load length is 1,027 miles. And if we had a $500 truck payment, we would have made $16,469 at 64 cents per mile. All right, just going back over the averages. Average weekly miles is looking pretty good, 2,500 miles per week. That equates to 133,000 miles over the course of an entire year. So that's pretty good. Now, Christmas and Thanksgiving, I take off quite a bit of time, so that's not in here. So we'll see how it is at the end of the year. But if I can maintain this, I'd be pretty happy with 133,000 miles. That's pretty good. Price per gallon, so I'm paying $3.24 per gallon, which is a little high. I am running some California / Arizona loads, so that could be affecting things as well. So that's a little high. I want that to get a little bit lower. I think I can do better there. But so far, $3.24 per gallon. I do have an OTR Solutions fuel card, so I do get like 50 cents off at all the TAs and a bunch of other places as well. So it's not that I don't have a good fuel card. It's just that, I don't know. I think I just got to look at where I'm fueling up a little bit better, because that might be slightly high, maybe about 5 to 10 cents higher than it should be. So there's that. Maintenance costs, obviously my maintenance costs spiked with the $2,000 I spent this week. So we're currently at $4,700 at 19 cents per mile. I don't expect my maintenance costs to stay at 19 cents per mile. I'm guessing it's going to fall between 10 and 15 cents per mile. So we're a little high right now, but that's because we're only 10 weeks in and I spent $2,000 this week on maintenance. So it spiked, but I think this is going to generally fall between 10 and 15 cents per mile. So this week we're just a little high because of the maintenance costs I had this week. All right, looking at it on a 52-week period. So if I kept this up, I'd make if I kept this up for 52 weeks, I'd make $111,000. That's not very good. Now, there's still not a lot of data here on this spreadsheet, so it's only 10 weeks. Once you get into like the 30-week, the 40-week timeline, any single week, like a bad week like this, won't affect things as much. But because we're only at 10 weeks and I had a bad week this week, this dropped down significantly and it's at $111,000. And if you minus the $18,000 of startup costs, then this goes down to about 95,000, 96, whatever thousand for an entire year. So pretty low. I expect this to even out in the coming weeks, but because I had a bad week this week, it dropped everything down a little bit, and there's not a lot of data in this as of right now. So that's noteworthy. But so far, not looking too good, and we'll see how it is at the end of the year. But 111,000 without startup costs. Moving on, revenue per week. I want that to get up to about 5,000 if I can. So that revenue per week does include days off. So just be advised of that. Still fairly low. Starting to really focus on just revenue per day. That's what I'm focusing on, and I think that'll keep ticking up in the coming weeks. But as of right now, that's pretty low. Just be advised, my days off are included in this revenue per week. I've only taken 5 days off, but still, it's in there as well. So yeah, just be advised of that. So, but still, pretty low. My deadhead is getting a lot better. So I think a couple weeks ago it was at 9%, and now it's at 7%, and that's good. I want to shoot between 5 and 8%. So we're at 7, so that's decent. I can accept that. Average load length is 1,000 miles. That's about where I want it. I want to be shooting for about 1,000-mile loads. I'm an OTR guy, so 1,000-mile loads is right where I want it to be, and I think that's totally fine. 1,027 is good, so there's that. And for the final column here, so this is what I would have made without my startup costs, and if I had a $500 per week truck payment. So if I had a $500 per week truck payment, I would have made $16,000 at 64 cents per mile. So that's basically company driver pay right there. Now I would be paying down a truck, so maybe a little bit better than company driver pay. However, probably not worth the risk right now. So that's not good. Just looking at this right now, I own my truck outright, so I don't have a truck payment. If I had a truck payment, this most definitely would not be worth it. So it's rough right now. 64 cents per mile, that's not worth it. And if you're thinking about coming into the owner-operator field, just be advised, it's really bad right now, and you're probably, for the next year or so, you're probably going to make about the same as a company driver. So just be advised of that. Probably not a good time. It's probably going to get better in the next year or two, or by next year. But I said that last year, and it didn't get any better this year. So I've been saying that for a while now. But the market is just really bad right now. The average spot rate for dry vans is, depending on what source you're looking at, is about $1.80 to $1.90 per mile, which for most operations just doesn't work. So if I were like paying a company driver right now, I think I'd just be in the red all year. And that's just the way it is. Really bad market. Hopefully things get better. And we'll see how it goes. But yeah, there you go. If I had a $500 truck payment, be making company driver pay. Oh yeah, guys. So there is week 10. Not a good week. Had some serious maintenance PM basically that I had done on the truck and trailer. I'm fine with that. It needed to get done, and right before Blitz, the Blitz week, I think is totally fine. But that did result in a pretty bad week. If I didn't have those payments, though, I would have had a decent week. Would have been like 3,000 or something this week. So that's okay. So yeah, there's week 10. But that will pretty much do it for this episode. Thanks for watching. If you need a factoring company, you might check out OTR Solutions. I was using them up until a couple of weeks ago, and at that point, I just no longer needed to factor my loads, so I just stopped using them. However, they're pretty solid. I usually got paid within 24 to 48 hours, so excellent. There is a link in the About section down below, so if you are interested in using them, please use that link. It does help me out a ton. And if you would like, and if you need access to this spreadsheet, you can find it in the About section down below. After you find it, you can just open it, then click File, Download it to a Microsoft Excel sheet, and then after you download it to an Excel sheet, you are free to use it however you please. But that will do it for this episode. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.